Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 2 of EPSY 255. This section, we're going to be discussing a little bit of chapter 1. And chapter 1 was just a brief overview to developmental psychology. So that's what we're going to get through today. That's what we're going to learn about today. It's just a brief overview of developmental psychology. To start, we are going to begin with a few familiar faces. We have Denzel, we have Gal, we have Bad Bunny, and we have Aquafina. And so my question for you today is, what do they have in common? I want you to think about the class that we are in, which is child development, and how the class that we are in can help answer that question. And I do know that they are all famous, but what else do they have in common? Give up? I'll tell you. All of these famous people were at one point in time children. They were all children at one point in time. Like you and I were also children at one point in time. And so that leads me into my first point of why we should study children. Children grow up to become adults, just like Aquafina and Denzel Washington grew up to become adults. And when children become adults, they become members of the society that they live in. What happens during childhood ultimately affects adults when they are older, and it affects how they are going to be a part of the community when they are older. So we should study children so that we can guide them to be adults that ultimately better the community of the future. And I know a lot of people are currently fighting for environmental issues and making sure that we save the planet so that the planet will be around for a long time. If we get those ideas ingrained into children at a young age, think about the positive impact that will have on the earth and the world in the future. People will be more concerned about environmental issues and problems. But that it's good to start at a young age so that when children are older and they become functioning members of society, they'll be able to make decisions that will help better the earth and ultimately help better the community. I also know that many of you took this class because you want to maybe become a parent in the future, or you are a parent now. You may want to be a teacher or a social worker or a psychologist, or work with children in other capacities. It's important that we all study children so that when you work with children as parents or in your career, you'll be able to really understand what is abnormal and what's normal. And so that way, when you see something that is abnormal, you'll be able to recognize that, and you'll be able to learn about how you can provide assistance to children and provide them with the tools that they need in order to be successful. Ultimately, we study children because we care for them and we want what's best for them. And so when we talk about studying children in this course, we're talking about studying child development, hence the name child development. So when you think about the word development, I want you all to think about change. And change can be either growth or decline. I also want you all to keep in mind that development, it does not start after a child is born, but it starts when a baby is in the womb. I say that again. Development does not start after a child is born. It starts when a child is in the womb. And I want you all to also think about development and change, and think about the Big Mouth theme song. And that show Big Mouth is on Netflix, and it's about teens going through puberty. And what's the theme song? I'm going through changes. As y'all can tell, I love to sing, so you'll probably hear me singing a lot throughout this semester. But think about it, the whole song is about change, and that is what the show is about. During puberty, puberty is change. So hopefully when you are studying for your quiz that you're going to have next week, you can hear me singing, I'm going through changes. And as we study children's development, not only do we have to study the positive things that occur when children develop, but it's also important to study the negative things that can happen during a child's development. A quick Google search. I just typed in child abuse. I typed that in, and so many different types of stories came up. And this search really just proved that many children are either one, not surviving to adulthood, or they may be able to survive to adulthood, but they're growing up with trauma. They have a lot of negative things that impact them. And so when we understand what occurs during childhood, when we understand children development, that helps us to improve the lives of children. And I'm so proud of you all for taking the first step by taking this class to help care for children and their well-being. In order for us to understand how we can improve children's lives, we first have to have an understanding of the different types of areas that children develop in. So I'm really proud of you all for taking this first step and taking child development. Know that this is the first step that is going to impact so many children in the future. As I stated, there are a lot of children that are going to grow up with trauma, or they're not going to make it to adulthood. And so what we want to do is look at areas where we can improve children's lives. We can first improve children's lives through their health and well-being. So for example, you want to make sure that a child is able to get access to health care, be able to go to the doctor, if they be able to have access to medicine. For example, if they have an ear infection. All of those things help improve children's lives and well-being. Another way that we can improve children's lives and well-being is through parenting. Parenting directly impacts children. If we are able to, as a society, help empower parents and provide them with the tools that they need to raise children in a way that is safe for children to grow up, then yes, that's definitely an area that we can improve. Another way that we can improve children's lives is through education. The old saying is, if you know better, you do better. A lot of people do not know. So it's important that we have this information about child development and be able to spread that so that people will be able to really get a good understanding of what and how child development is and what that looks like. And so that way we can be able to help as many children as possible. So we talked about health and well-being, parenting, and education as ways that we can improve children's lives. Something that affects all of those areas of children's lives are sociocultural context and diversity. And to have a few key terms that I want you all to know. The first key term is context. Context is a setting where development occurs. So think about the house. Children develop in the house. They develop biologically, socially, emotionally. They may also develop when they at the park. because they're using their muscles, and they're also using their cognitive skills to be able to go up and down the slide or be able to swing. Another key term is culture. Culture is just a belief system. And when we think about beliefs, you also have to talk about traditions, thinking about maybe if someone celebrates a certain holiday, or if you do not celebrate a certain holiday, or for example, the types of foods that you eat. Those kinds of beliefs and traditions all are a part of culture. Something that's closely tied to culture is ethnicity. And when we think about ethnicity, we think about the nationality. Where are you from? What city? What state? What country? What continent? And even your race. African American, white. All of those different types of races, cultural heritage, the nationality, all of those work together to comprise ethnicity. And as I stated, culture and ethnicity go hand in hand, but it's important to know that culture is more of the belief system and ethnicity is more a grouping. Socioeconomic status. A lot of people think that socioeconomic status is only income, but it's more than that. Think about socioeconomic status. You think about your position in society. Are you at a place where you're able to make the rules, to make the laws that govern the country that you live in? Do you have, what's your education level? Is another example of socioeconomic status. Did you graduate high school? Did you get a bachelor's, a master's, a doctorate degree? And even the type of occupation that you have, all of those things go into play when we talk about socioeconomic status. And lastly, the key term that I want you all to remember is gender. When we talk about gender, just think about how someone identifies. And so we have these sociocultural contexts and diversity that influence health and well-being, parenting, and education. Something else that influences health and well-being, parenting, and education is social policy. And social policy is just different strategies that can help to improve the lives of children. And an example of a social policy would be a law. And when we think about the different types of laws, what is a law or a social policy that has affected children? Think about that. And I'll catch you on the next video.